Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Divine Within, the invisible connection with God. How can a simple person connect to the wisdom of the universe? How does it take to become enlightened? How can we balance life in the material and spiritual worlds? Any of these questions, your questions? Have you ever thought of these questions? Well, today we're going to be talking about connecting and becoming enlightened. This is a fascinating topic, and I think one of the first that we have to address in order to understand what we're all made out of, what our purpose is, and what the possibilities of life can be here on this planet and beyond. So, what is making room for the light? What does it mean to connect? And what does it take to become truly enlightened? These aren't abstract or spiritual riddles. They're deeply personal questions that each of us must face at some time and point of our lives. In this episode, we begin with the idea that our true connection begins from within. Before we can shine outward, we must make room for the light to enter us, clearing away the noise, distractions, and inherited expectations that clutter the inner space where truth and presence reside. The struggle between the secular and the spiritual, we explore the modern-day tension between institutional systems and deeply yearning for personal spiritual experience. Enlightenment does not come from conformity or performance. It arrives when we begin to perceive the divine within and live from that center. In contrast with a religion based on authority, the religion of personal spiritual experience reveals a transformative path where faith becomes a living relationship with truth, not a rigid structure. To connect is to awaken, and to awaken is to embody spiritual reality as part of our daily lives. This episode invites you to consider, what can you do to let go to make room for the light? What inner space needs clearing, and what part of you is ready, shining, but simply forgotten? Together we'll reflect, share, and ignite that divine spark that's always been within us, waiting patiently for us to notice. So remember, if you like this podcast, remember to subscribe, like, and share. We do appreciate you sharing, making this community bigger. And also remember to visit the tools we've developed. They're free tools like the UB Tutor, the UB Podcast, and Discover Jesus. You can find the information below, and you can use this freely whenever you can. So now let me introduce my panel. I really like this one because we have a variety of brothers that have been through this path, some longer, some shorter, but I feel that they have the same qualities. They have truth-seeking and truth-giving in all of them. First of all, I want to introduce April Helen. She is a lifelong teacher, healer, and creative visionary with over 30 years of experience as an art of living consultant. She considers herself a service collaborator, walking alongside individuals and organizations as we progress toward greater connection, purpose, and embodied presence through transformational courses, practices, and soul-rooted wisdom. April Helen is the co-founder and executive director of two nonprofits devoted to the individual and social transformation, cultivating a global culture of service. Welcome, April Helen.
Well, good cheer, everyone. Aloha. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Now we go with Don Clementine. Don, Donald actually, who goes by Don, was born and raised in the Bay Area of Northern California. He worked in the engineering field as a structural draftsman until he retired, repurposing in 2020. Don has lived in Boston, Massachusetts since 1999, where he resides with his wife and supportive URANTIA Book partner. In 2012, he met his authors behind what would become the Christ Experiment, and he has since become a dedicated partner in that effort. Don continues to actively promote and advance the teachings of the URANTIA Book. Welcome, Don. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Happy to be with you.
Thank you. And now I move to another brother of mine, James. James has a long history and has been working as a musician and carpenter most of his life. And along with other pursuits, he has a stern sense of attraction to God and spiritual realities guided him into religion and philosophy as a teen. He read the Bible, explored metaphysics and the occult, checked out Eastern spiritual paths, and supplemented his spiritual exploration with psychedelic mind medicines, LSD, peyote, and psilocybin. Like others who came of the age of the 1960s, James became a hippie and a traveling minstrel. His rigorous research for more Jesus led him to the URANTIA book in 1973. The formidable text was exactly what he was looking for, and he read it cover to cover. Following a 1974 visit to the URANTIA Foundation's headquarters in Chicago, James was certain that the revelation was what it claimed to be. Later, James became active in the URANTIA community, hosting study groups, organizing conferences, and contributing his photojournalism skills to the URANTIA Foundation and the URANTIA Association. His volunteer work has a prelude to joining the staff of the URANTIA Foundation in the year 2000, where he managed the Reader Services Department and traveled extensively as a URANTIA book ambassador. In 2005, James became the executive administrator of the URANTIA Association, and following the tenure, has continued to serve in leadership roles. Recently, James has released his second album of original songs as J. Woody, many with spirit themes, and he edits URANTIA-based secondary works and is currently writing a book detailing his spiritual adventures. It's a pleasure to have you, James. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for that kind introduction, Santiago. Nice to be here with my friends and my other esteemed adventures on the spiritual path.
Well, it's a pleasure having you, Don. James, Don, and April Helen. And now I'm going to introduce Ian. Ian is a mechanical engineer, inventor, tinkerer, and gearhead who likes to fix things, solve problems, and simply the complex. And speaking of the complex, he's going to be working the Ghost in the Machine. We have an AI, the UB tutor, that it sort of helps us in our spiritual quest. We can ask it questions, and he's going to be operating that throughout the course of this session. And we're going to be learning what the Ghost in the Machine wants to tell us. So thanks and welcome, Ian.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks. So to start this off, and whomever wants to start it off, just raise your hand or start talking. But I'm curious, what's the first thing you have to do when you connect and become enlightened? What's the first thing that comes to your mind that you have to do?
Go, April.
Go, April.
April Helen, it's one word.
April
Thanks for the
Helen.
opportunity to give a little spin on this question after nearly 30 years of an experience of helping people, sharing my insight, and collaborating with others in the art of living. I've observed something beautifully consistent that no matter what and where, this question is very popular. And the most powerful truth that I've found is that you don't have to reach for connection. You're already connected. So the first step is acknowledging that. Enlightenment isn't something that we get. It's something that we remember. It's not somewhere we go. It's what we return to when we remember and pause and breathe and invite observation. That alone can change everything. Simply sitting with that observation and witnessing and acknowledging. And so much of the struggle, it seems, in this striving to connect, yet we acknowledge the presence that's already within us. We stop chasing and start allowing, and to find the door that has already been open this whole time. So that is my initial take on that question.
Well, thanks for sharing, and I get the point what you're saying. It's really observing, and as you say, once you acknowledge, everything starts to kind of fall into place. You realize and you accept. That's how I understand it?
Yes, and what comes in that, and I love Mr. James, you speak to the adventure. It's always this creative unfolding. And as you acknowledge, then that opens up this reality to have the practices that support this connection to be maintained. which I think we're going to be getting into that in the
Of
next.
course. Yeah, of course. One thing is to know it, and now to practice it. How do we execute that? And please fill in us on your information, James.
Well, I would go along with everything April Helen just said. It's all true. Um, there's a lot of misinformation about enlightenment, and it's completely true that it is within us. However, we do have to think about it. We have to meditate about it. We have to have an interest in discovering the divine within. We know it's there. April Helen just reminded us it's there. And we know this whole program is about the divine within. So how do you make room for the light is you clear out some of the darkness. Now, that might sound like, ooh, that's not all spiritual, but it's true. We've all got junk floating around in there, and mainly because we come from a secular materialist world. The world is it's a mess out there. So you make room for the light through the practices. Now, this is where we get into the practice too. Is that the silence? You have to make, in order to find the light, you have to make room for it, and you have to do that through the silence. And there are a lot of practices that we can use. Prayer, meditation, and worship are the classic ones, and they will connect you with that divine within if you're sincerely motivated.
And I think that's very important. The what you're saying on remaining silent and hearing, right?
Well, it's not just a theory. The divine is interested in you and what you're doing, and making that a stronger connection. But you do have to clean the slate, so to speak. And you do that. All of the traditions throughout history have recommended meditation, the silence, prayer, and especially worship. Worship is a whole different thing. I think we'll probably get into that as we go along here. I hope we do, because there is a distinction between meditation, prayer, and worship. The way that light works is when it shines on a shadow, the shadow is dissipated. So we all have shadows. We carry around our shadows as a result of this crazy world we live in, secular materialist culture, and our upbringing. A lot of things go into it. So getting rid of the shadow is really just a matter of shining the light. You go outside, the sun shines, and you brighten up. It's a nice experience. It's much the same with the divine. The divine is that light, and when you invite it to be present with you and in you and around you, it just sort of dissipates the shadows. At least that's the way I kind of look at it. And of course, the practices that favor the light coming in are going into the silence in whatever manner you might do that through meditation, prayer, and worship, are the typical, the ideals that have been with us for millenniums, and they work. They work if you have if you're motivated sincerely, and ask and you shall receive. That's almost become cliche, but in my experience, it works. I had to find a practice of my own. It was some decades ago, but I thought I had the URANTIA book kind of figured out, and this God thing, but I needed to practice. I didn't have a daily ritual where I went into the silence and tried to commune with the divine, and that made a huge difference. It made all the difference in my life. So I recommend that for anybody that wants to get more of that divine. Set aside some time, let the light in.
I really like this, and this has been a common thread not only in this conversation, but all the conversations that we had with the different people. It's number one, you have to be willing. Number two, you have to make light. I mean, you make room for the light. It's first of all, will it, then welcome it in a way. Can you help? Can you uh, confirm, or can you share something on this, Don? I know that you have a nice view on this.
Yes. For me, the idea of getting enlightenment doesn't come in a vacuum. If you're very satisfied with life and where you are, sometimes there's nothing that compels you to want to move to a higher level. Um, there has to be a level of dissatisfaction with where you are, and also a desire to move to a higher level of truth. And this is not always easy. At least for me, I grew up in a religion where all the answers were given for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you grow up in that environment, you believe you have all the answers. But I think within all of us, we all at some point, no matter where we are or what we believe, have a nagging question in the back of the mind that says, this isn't quite right. And it takes a level of courage to be able to say, I'm going to investigate it, because the powers that be don't want you to do that. Not only the powers that be don't want you to do it, sometimes we ourselves don't want to go there. We don't want to pull on that thread, because the whole sweater may become unraveled. And then what do I do? So there's a certain amount of fear that can enter the whole realm of wanting to become enlightened. And you've all heard the saying, be careful what you ask for, because what you ask for, you may get it. And it may be true and profound, and it could whack you right to the ground. I remember a book I had come across years ago. It was called The Myth of Certainty. And in that book, it described how Christians have this tension that exists between what they've grown up believing, and when they began to think critically about things, a tension begins to occur. Where do I go? How do I deal with this? Who can I even talk to about this? So the first thing that we have to do if we want to connect with enlightenment, there's got to be a courageous desire that supersedes whatever may come about. In other words, as they say, following truth wherever it may lead you. And if we can develop the courage to do that, and we can engage in prayer for help, we may be able to find a friend who can help us along, but we have to embark on it. For me, there was a lot of collateral damage, because in my quest, I was ultimately excommunicated from the religion that I had grown up with. And it wasn't
Okay.
over anything bad, like committing some kind of crime, but it was simply deviating from the way that we are taught to do certain things. But the aftermath of it is you feel so liberated and you feel so free. And then you begin to move from one level of enlightenment to another level and another level. And it's such a beautiful, satisfying experience that begins to be reflected in all aspects of your life. But you have to be willing
Yeah.
to travel that path.
There, no, and I can relate to that, and totally, and something. I mean, what you just describing happened to me, and I wasn't excommunicated, but but yeah, I mean, one of the things that, as I grew, and some of the what you're saying, some of the facts or some of the, and they even call them mysteries, were really something that really did weren't kind of barrier to really understanding God, and to my conclusion is I cannot, make sense of God if I cannot make sense of what they're saying. I cannot understand. And suddenly, I let go. But it was frightening because you do have to break with the paradigms with what you've been, taught of throughout your life. And one of the things that Sandra Reinberg tells us, and she says, I was free from fear. I had to be free from fear because it's fearful. And suddenly, when you start going away from the shores that from the comfort of what it is a struggle. It is discovering, and the rewards are great. They are, but nonetheless, the struggle is scary. Like you're saying, everything, all the things that you guys were saying, you have to go and face fear. You have to have that nagging question, that it's not comfortable. It's that shoe, that rock in that shoe that it just doesn't feel good, that you suddenly look at it and find the rock and take it out, in a way, if you want to use an image on that. Ian, do you have anything on the tutor?
Yeah, I've been asking the tutor questions as people were talking, but to be honest, what was said by the humans is better. There are some nuggets in the tutor that I'll pull out.
Yay,
One of
humans.
them, the foundation. Isn't
Yay.
that funny how that works? I mean, the tutor is amazing, but
True.
personal experience and things like that, it's hard to beat that. The pursuit of truth, it says, is foundational, and it reminds me of a wise man who said many times, you should always, I'm paraphrasing, you should always strive for the highest truth, even if it's uncomfortable, and you should speak the truth. When you see something that's false, you should call it out as false. And it may not be the most comfortable thing, and it may be painful at the time, but it will be the best possible outcome that you can possibly have, is to speak the truth, not to ignore it, not to stay silent. And that, I think that's good advice. It's worked for me. I can read about what the bot says about truth.
Yeah, if you could share just a little bit of what they said, it'd be great.
Sure. The desire for truth is absolutely foundational in the pursuit of enlightenment. It is a driving force that propels the soul toward greater understanding, deeper connection with the divine, and the realization of spiritual realities. Without the sincere yearning for truth, the journey toward enlightenment falters. As a desire for truth that opens the mind and heart to higher knowledge and the transformative power of divine guidance. If there's things that we are ignoring that we know we shouldn't, it's hard to move on, I guess.
Yeah.
Truth is not merely an intellectual concept. It's a living reality that encompasses the essence of the divine, the purpose of existence, and the principles that govern the universe. Pursuit of truth requires humility, courage, and openness to growth, as it often challenges preconceived notions and compels you to transcend the limitations of ego self-interest. The desire for truth is what awakens the soul to its spiritual potential and aligns it with the eternal quest for meaning and purpose. The other thing that the bot pointed out was it takes an act of faith to kick it off. And I think that could be a lot of things, but I thought that was a pretty good statement.
Oh, pretty nice. And yeah, I think our comments are pretty aligned in what the tutor is saying. And yeah, it's taking the bull by the horns and committing to it. And I think it's an everyday commitment. It's not just, okay, I'm going to be enlightened. No. That's just the beginning of the quest. The actual quest is before you. Well, thanks a lot for that, Ian. Thanks a lot for that. Those comments, guys.